Hello and welcome. On this episode I'm going to be taking a look at even more industrial archaeology in my local area, and this area that I'm in is known as the Valley of the Mills. On my right hand side is the River Fidion, and that feeds the top of Dyserth waterfalls, and along that river used to be as many as 7 mills. I'm actually stood on the old track bed. The track bed was laid from Dyserth to Marian Mills, but it was never completed. It never saw service of trains on it. It didn't even see track on it. So I'm going to be walking down here for about a quarter of a mile until we get to our first point of interest. One telltale sign that this area was heavily industrialised is the sheer amount of porcelain, earthenware and ceramics I found in the river. It seemed that within every couple of steps I took there was another piece of pottery. So I've just been in the River Fidion. I found all this pottery. There's some kind of a lid for an earthenware vessel there. Got a couple more bits here. Looks like a rim off something. No dates. I can't see any dates on anything. But these are just shards anyway. But yeah, nice little find that. There was so much pottery that I was even able to take it home, dry it out, and piece some together. After doing a little research, I found out that this earthenware jar was an 1890s Victorian jelly jar produced by Sir William Pickles Hartley. Sir Hartley was an industrious man. He first started as a grocer, but sold his business and established a small jam factory in Bootle, Liverpool. In 1886 he established a new 40-acre factory in Aintree. At its peak he employed 1,420 people, and the factory was capable of producing 100 tonnes of preserves each day. The business was so successful that Sir Hartley even built a village for his employees. Continuing on my walk, I passed Grove Mill Cottage. It's believed that the cottage was named by one of the owners of Grove Mill, which you will see a little later in the video. To the rear of the cottage is the location of our first mill. According to this late 1800s map, it says that the mill was a flour mill. However, this is incorrect because the Welsh word pandy means fulling. So the word pandy mill is actually fulling mill. Fulling mills process cloth made of wool. After the weaving process, the cloth was still dirty and oily and was brought to a fulling mill to process it further. After being soaked in a solution of water and full as earth, the cloth was then pounded in the mill by huge wooden hammers powered by the water wheel. Moving on, I next visit the remains of Grove Mill. This mill was built in 1815 and was a flour mill. So I'm now stood where the water wheel would have been, and there's 3 main parts to a water wheel system. Behind me we can see this stone wall, and this is called the head, and above that is a culvert. On this particular mill is a culvert that would bring water from a spring further up the valley. So this area of the mill would be called the head race, and up there would be a sluice gate so they could close off the water and open the water up to make the water wheel turn or not turn. Just here would be the axle and the actual wheel itself. And then we've got the tail race, where all the water would have come underneath the road here via a culvert and then be dumped into the River Fidion. This mill wasn't actually fed by the River Fidion, it was fed by Fidon Assa, which is further up the valley, up the road up there, and we'll take a look at that in a little bit. Grove Mill was a flour mill, and looking inside we can clearly see where the upper floor joist would have been. The mill closed in 1912 and then reopened in 1920. This closure was presumably brought about by the Great War. It finally closed for good in around 1925. Next to the mill is a bridge that would have taken the railway over the river.
So I'm now at Marian Mill and there was two mills here. I'm actually stood in one. This would be Fal and Fac, which means basically little mill. And we could just see over there the head race, and just underneath there would be the water wheel. I've got an image from the other side of the river which shows this mill and Fal and Fac, which is the big mill, which is a little bit further on.
Fal and Fac had the biggest water wheel of all the mills along the river. The hub can still be seen today with its 3 oak wood spokes. I'm told that the pit for the wheel is several metres deep. As with all videos I make of this nature, I inevitably end up knocking on a few doors. One of the residents of a nearby cottage had actually done her university dissertation on the mills in the area. Although I wasn't able to reproduce her works, it made for a fascinating read. I did, however, get to see the head race that fed the huge water wheel. As I said earlier, Grove Mill and the 2 mills at Marian were powered by a spring. This spring produces 4 million gallons of water a day. It's not accessible anymore and is now housed in a stone building. Next I walked to the Panda on Panda Lane in Dyserth. No prizes for guessing where it gets its name from. At the bottom of the lane and next to the river is what was another fulling mill. Although little is known about this mill, I did get a chance to walk around the grounds, in the hope of finding some evidence or some telltale signs of how it would have operated. Unfortunately, I drew a blank with this one. I did find out that it's now owned by a bee farmer. The honey is sold in the traditional butcher's shop in the village. So if you're ever in the area, don't forget to pick a jar up and maybe even a joint of meat for your Sunday roast.
So that concludes this video. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe and leave some comments, give me a thumbs up and all that kind of stuff. Join me on the next video when I take a look at some of the quarries in the area and the production of quicklime.